Hola! Welcome to the Good News Roundup. I had some personal bad news with the bike yesterday morning, hence the Band-Aid. But we have 6 great positive news stories for you today. We start with a miracle drug trial that eradicated cancer in every patient. Then we have 2 bits of good news for the environment. The EU has seen a record drop in carbon emissions, and in the second, a new EU rule will see universal chargers used for all phones, tablets, and laptops. Next, we look at new research that shows music with a groove is good for brain function. And then we go to India, where numbers of an endangered rhino are on the increase. And finally this week, we look at a new law in Spain that seeks to do away with food waste. A major breakthrough in cancer treatment could be just around the corner. After more than a dozen US rectal cancer patients saw their tumors vanish after taking a new drug. The patients were part of a small clinical trial led by researchers from New York Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, who gave them an experimental drug called dostarlimab. Participants received a dose of dostarlimab every 3 weeks for every 6 months, and the idea was they would also need to undergo a standard treatment of chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and surgery following the immunotherapy treatment. But to their surprise, researchers found that in every single case, the cancer was wiped out with the experimental treatment alone.
That day, I didn't see the tumor. So I was thinking, where is the tumor? Then maybe I thought it's hiding somewhere inside. Doctor told me, there is no more tumor. It's a miracle.
The trial has been hailed as a first in cancer treatment. One of the paper's authors, Dr. Luis Diaz Jr. of the Memorial Sloan Kettering, told the New York Times that he knew of no other study, I repeat, no other study in which a treatment completely obliterated cancer in every patient. There's more than one reason to be cheerful in the EU this week. Greenhouse gas emissions in the bloc are at their lowest level since records began in the 90s, according to the latest data published today by the European Environment Agency. The overall reduction in emissions between 1990 and 2020 was 34%, or 1.94 billion tons of greenhouse gases. That's the equivalent of 1.94 billion turns around the Earth driving in an average car. Almost every EU member state had lower emissions than in 1990, but the UK, which was still part of the bloc in 2020, and Germany deserve special mention, as they accounted for 47% of the total net reduction of the past 30 years. Hats off to the EU for a welcome environmental initiative announced this week. Thanks to a recently agreed deal, the nest of cables in your suitcase might soon be reduced to a single charger. European officials have agreed on a deal to impose a one-type-fits-all standard port for smartphones, tablets, and laptops sold in the bloc. It's a win-win for reducing both frustration and e-waste, electronic waste, which is the fastest growing waste stream in the developed world. EU member states and MEPs believe a standard USB-C port for all devices will have a major environmental benefit. Resistance has mostly been from Apple, who are most affected by the move. The company argues that a uniform charger would stifle innovation.
Now, it's mandatory. If any company is willing to benefit from the biggest digital market in the free world, it's the EU. Of course, we welcome everybody, but this is Europe here. And then we'll have to apply to our rules.
And now it's time to dust off your dancing shoes. We knew it was good for the body, but researchers have found that getting your groove on is also beneficial to the brain. Yes, we know you know that physical exercise has beneficial effects on cognitive functions. Yes, there are also many studies that show that people who dance report higher levels of emotional well-being. But this discovery by researchers from the University of Tsukuba in Japan is mainly about music, specifically music with a groove, a rhythm that makes you want to dance. The study looks at how this kind of music elicits feelings of pleasure and arousal in people, and how it stimulates the prefrontal cortex to enhance the executive function of the brain, the cognitive skill that includes working memory, flexible thinking, and self-control.
Inactivity causes many problems in our health. So that's why exercise is a very good solution. So that's why we focus on the effect of the rhythm, especially groovy rhythm, because a groovy rhythm is a very good combination with exercise.
The benefits were only apparent in participants who said music really elicited a strong sensation of groove. In other words, it's a very individual response and only works on those who respond to the beat of music. For some, their prefrontal cortex will respond to salsa, and for others, to techno. Assam, the Indian province best known for its tea plantations, is enjoying a baby boom. But we're not talking about the human sort. We're talking about rhinos. Assam is home to 70% of the world's greater one-horned rhino population and carries out a rhino census every 2 years. Since the last count, rhino numbers have gone up by 274, which is partly explained by the peace and quiet during the pandemic, when many protected areas were closed to visitors. For a species that was once perilously close to extinction, numbering fewer than 100 individuals, the recovery is truly remarkable. The current census of the one-horned rhino in India, along with Nepal, which is the other country with greater one-horned rhinos, revealed that the total population has risen to 4,014. The governments of India and Nepal have allocated more land in which the rhinos can breed, while also creating new strategies to prevent poaching deaths. Have you ever asked for a doggy bag? Taking your leftovers home with you is commonplace in the USA, but raises a few eyebrows in most parts of Europe. The Spanish government wants to break that taboo and has approved a bill to oblige restaurants to provide free containers to customers who wish to take their leftovers home. And that's the least of it. The bill, which still needs to be approved by Parliament, will oblige larger bars, restaurants, and supermarkets to submit plans to prevent food waste. The priority must be human consumption through donations to entities such as food banks. But if this is not possible, leftover food can be transformed into other products such as juices or jams, or used for animal feed. And if none of this is suitable, waste food can be processed for industrial byproducts or recycled for compost or fuel. And there's more. For serious infringements, they will face penalties of up to 60,000 euros, with fines of up to €500,000 for repeat offenders. The law seeks to comply with one of the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN Agenda 2030, which is to halve food waste per capita worldwide. If you've enjoyed this roundup and want to hear more good news, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let us know in the comments and share our stories with your friends. And remember, it can be hard to find among headlines, but some news is good news.